Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Ever feel like the place you're from is holding you back? Like it's got this almost, I don't know, supernatural grip on you?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the feeling we're diving into today with A Curse for the Homesick.
Ooh,
It's YA paranormal romance, so batten down the hatches, folks. Get ready for some
I
feelings.
love it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to follow along, you can find a link to the book in the description below.
Awesome.
So what do you think? What's so interesting about this idea that, the place we come from can hold us back?
You know what's interesting about this premise is how it sets up this conflict that so many of us can relate to, right? Like the desire to break free from our past, but also the pull of those deep roots. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to swim away from an island that's also a part of you.
It is.
And that's exactly what our protagonist, Tess, is dealing with. She's a Stenish girl who leaves her island home after a tragic accident involving her first love, Soren.
Oh,
Who,
like, so this accident, though, it isn't just a plot device, right? It's deeply intertwined with this skeld curse, this mysterious affliction that turns people to stone during certain seasons on Stenland.
okay, so now we're not just talking about emotional baggage. We're
Right.
talking about an actual curse.
Literally.
What struck me was how vividly the author describes those stone statues, like scattered across the island, like frozen memories.
Mhm.
It adds this chilling layer to the story. Like the past is literally watching over you.
Makes you wonder, right? Like, is the curse a supernatural phenomenon or a
Yes.
metaphor for the ways our past can solidify and trap us?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So Stenland is this remote island with a very unique culture, right?
Yeah.
Big, close-knit communities, rugged landscapes, sheep milk cheese.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started.
I was practically craving one by the end of the book. But seriously, this setting is not just a pretty backdrop. It plays a huge role in shaping the characters' lives.
Absolutely. The island's isolation, it fosters a strong sense of community, but also a sense of claustrophobia, especially for someone like Tess who yearns for something more.
It's like the island itself becomes another character, adding to the tension and mystery.
Definitely.
And speaking of characters, let's talk about Tess.
Okay.
She is driven and ambitious, using her swimming talent as a way to escape Stenland. But she's also wrestling with guilt over the accident that took Soren's parents. And her feelings for him are, well, complicated, to say the least.
I think what makes Tess such a compelling character is her internal conflict, right? Like, on the one hand, she's determined to forge her own path,
Yeah.
but she's constantly pulled back to Stenland,
Hmm.
both by her lingering feelings for Soren and the weight of her past.
Yeah, it's like she's trying to outrun her own history,
Right.
which, as we know, is never really possible.
Never.
And then there's Soren.
Yes.
He's stoic, connected to the island, shouldering the responsibility of his family's croft. He seems content with island life, which makes their dynamic even more interesting.
What I find fascinating about Soren is how he embodies the island's resilience.
Oh, okay.
He's weathered immense loss and carries the weight of tradition on his shoulders, almost like, a living embodiment of the Skeld curse itself.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
The way he's tied to his land, his family, it does feel like he's bearing a burden he can't escape.
Absolutely.
And this brings us to the heart of their relationship.
Yeah.
It's shaped by shared trauma, by unspoken feelings, and that ever-present shadow of the curse.
Exactly. Their love story isn't just about romance.
Right.
It's about the complexities of guilt, forgiveness, and the question of whether it's possible to love someone
Yeah.
while also fearing what your connection might bring.
It's heavy stuff, but so well done.
It is.
And it's not just Tess and Soren who are dealing with all this.
Yeah.
There's a whole cast of characters who add layers to the story.
Oh, yeah. Each of them, in their own way, reflects a different aspect of life on Stenland. You have Linnea, Tess's best friend. She represents a more grounded approach to island life, content with her roots.
She's like the voice of reason, reminding Tess that there's beauty and community on the island, even with all its challenges. Then there's Kitty, the witty and outspoken friend who provides some much-needed humor, but also challenges Tess's views, pushing her to examine her own prejudices and assumptions.
I love Kitty.
I love Kitty's energy. She brings a lightness to the story, but she's also insightful. She's one who reminds Tess that sometimes running away isn't the answer.
Right, exactly.
And then you have these secondary characters who flesh out the world of Stenland.
Yeah.
Henrik, Linnea's husband, and Soren's best friend, who represents loyalty and steadfastness. Lucas, Soren's younger brother, who yearns for a life beyond the island, mirroring Tess's own desires. And Elin, Soren's grandmother, who embodies the wisdom and strength of the island's older generation.
It's like each of these characters represents a different path, a different way of relating to the island and its legacy.
Mm-hmm. And there's this one place that acts as a kind of crossroads for all of them.
Okay.
Hedis, the local cafe.
Hedis is fascinating because it's more than just a place to grab a bite.
Right.
It's the island's central hub where gossip is exchanged, news is shared, and relationships are tested.
Yeah.
You see the characters interacting there in ways that reveal so much about their personalities and their motivations.
Yes. It's where we see the island's dynamics play out in miniature.
It is.
And then there's the Ramna Scale, the ancient keep, where those afflicted with the skeld curse are quarantined during skeld season. Just the name itself sounds ominous, doesn't it?
Ramna Scale serves a dual purpose in the story.
Okay.
It's a literal place of confinement, a symbol of the fear and isolation that the skeld curse brings. But it's also a representation of the ways we isolate ourselves emotionally, building walls to protect ourselves from pain and vulnerability.
That's such a powerful insight.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how we all have our own Ramna scales, those places where we retreat when we're hurting or afraid.
Exactly. And that's what makes A Curse for the Homesick so compelling. It's a paranormal romance with a supernatural curse.
Yeah.
But it's ultimately a story about very human emotions: love, loss, fear, and the longing for belonging.
And it makes you think about how those emotions can sometimes feel as inescapable as a physical curse. We've barely scratched the surface, and I'm already hooked.
Me too.
But before we dive deeper into Tess's journey and the symbolism of the skeld curse, let's take a moment to gather our thoughts. When we come back, we'll unravel some of the mysteries that lie at the heart of this captivating story. Stay with us.
One of the things that really struck me about A Curse for the Homesick is how it uses multiple timelines to tell the story.
Oh, yeah.
We jump back and forth between Tess's childhood,
Right.
her teenage years, and her present.
And at first, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Was it going to be confusing?
Yeah.
Would it disrupt the flow? But honestly, it works brilliantly.
It does. It
really does.
The shifting timelines allow the author to slowly reveal these layers of Tess and Soren's relationship, as well as the events that led to the accident.
Right.
You see them as innocent kids falling in love,
Yeah.
then as teenagers grappling with the aftermath of this tragedy, and finally as adults
Right.
trying to make sense of it all.
And it's not just their relationship that benefits from this structure.
Right.
You get a deeper understanding of the skeld curse, too.
Exactly.
We see how it shaped Stenland's history, its traditions, even its architecture.
Absolutely. The curse isn't just a present-day threat, right? It's woven into the very fabric of the island's identity.
Yeah.
And by experiencing these different time periods, you begin to grasp the curse's profound impact on the islanders' lives.
It's almost like you're piecing together a puzzle.
It is.
Each timeline offering a new clue to the mysteries of both the curse and the character's motivations.
Totally.
Speaking of mysteries, let's talk about the symbolism of the skeld curse itself.
Oh.
We've touched on it a bit, but there's so much to unpack here.
Oh.
It's not just a physical affliction.
Right.
It's a powerful metaphor for the burdens we carry,
Yeah.
the things that hold us back.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like those stone statues.
Yeah.
They represent all the ways we can become trapped by guilt, by fear, by the expectations of others, and the fear of becoming a skeld.
Yeah.
It reflects that fear of losing yourself,
Right.
of becoming hardened and unfeeling.
Think about the tradition of wearing blindfolds during skeld season.
Oh, yeah.
On the surface, it's a practical measure to avoid eye contact with potentially infected individuals.
Right.
But on a deeper level, it symbolizes how we often choose to blind ourselves to painful truths or difficult emotions.
That's such a good point.
The blindfolds become a final manifestation of the ways we avoid confronting our own inner skelds.
I love that, inner skelds.
And it makes you wonder, what are the things we're choosing not to see in our own lives?
Yeah.
What are the burdens we're carrying that are preventing us from truly connecting with others?
Ooh, that's deep.
I know, right? And it ties into this whole theme of forgiveness, which is so central to the story.
Absolutely.
Tess is struggling to forgive her mother for the accident,
Yeah.
but she's also struggling to forgive herself.
Exactly, and her journey towards forgiveness is mirrored in the way she confronts the Skeld curse.
Oh.
It's about recognizing the complexities of human behavior, understanding that people make mistakes, and finding a way to move forward without being consumed by anger or resentment.
And the forgiveness doesn't come easily for Tess.
No, it doesn't.
She goes through so much pain and self-doubt before she's able to even consider letting go of the past.
Which is realistic, right?
Yeah.
Forgiveness is a process. It's not just a switch you can flip on.
Right.
And the book doesn't shy away from showing how messy and challenging that process can be.
And it makes those moments of connection between Tess and Soren even more powerful.
Oh, tell me about it.
Like that scene in the Ramna scale when they're surrounded by stone statues, and yet they manage to find a fleeting moment of intimacy.
Yes.
Like even in the midst of all that fear and isolation, love can still find a way to break through.
That scene is so beautifully written. It's both terrifying and tender.
Yeah.
Highlighting the duality of their relationship, right? They're drawn to each other.
Right.
But they're also afraid of what that connection might unleash.
And it ties into this whole idea of the Skeld curse as a metaphor for the ways we isolate ourselves.
Yes.
In that moment, Tess and Soren are choosing to see each other, to connect, despite the risks. It's like they're taking off their metaphorical blindfolds and acknowledging the depth of their feelings.
And it's a reminder that vulnerability can be a source of strength, even when it feels scary or dangerous.
Now, shifting gears a bit, I want to talk about the setting.
Okay.
Because the author really brings Stenland to life.
It is a beautiful setting.
The descriptions of the rugged landscapes, the ever-present mist, the crashing waves, it's also evocative.
Yes.
You can practically smell the salty air and feel the chill in your bones.
It's true. Stenland is almost a character in itself, shaping the lives and beliefs of its inhabitants.
Yeah.
The isolation of the island, the harshness of the environment, the ever-present threat of the Skeld curse. It all contributes to a sense of both beauty and danger.
And it's not just the physical landscape that's so well developed.
Right.
The author also captures the island's unique culture, its traditions, its folklore.
Yes.
You get a real sense of the community.
Absolutely.
The close-knit bonds, but also the weight of history and tradition.
And that weight of tradition is something that Tess struggles with, right?
Yes, absolutely.
She sees the beauty of Stenland, but she also feels stifled by its expectations, its limitations.
Exactly. She's torn between the desire to honor her heritage and the need to forge her own path.
Right.
And this conflict is reflected in her relationship with Soren, who seems more comfortable with the island's ways.
It's like they represent two different sides of Stenland.
Yes.
The pull of the past and the yearning for the future.
And their story asks the question, can you ever truly escape the place you're from? Or will it always be a part of you, no matter how far you run?
That's the heart of the matter, isn't it? And it's a question that resonates with anyone who's ever felt torn between staying and leaving.
Right.
Between honoring their roots and chasing their dreams.
A Curse for the Homesick really gets under your skin, making you think about your own relationship with the places and people that have shaped you.
It does.
And it does so with such beautiful language, such vivid imagery. The writing itself is almost like a spell.
Yeah.
Drawing you into the story and holding you captive until the very last page.
I couldn't agree more. The author's prose is both lyrical and haunting, perfectly capturing the atmosphere of mystery and enchantment that permeates the story.
And before we get to the emotional climax of the book, let's pause here to absorb everything we've discussed so far. When we come back, we'll explore the choices Tess makes, the consequences she faces, and ultimately, what she discovers about herself and the true meaning of home. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. I don't know about you, but my mind is still swirling with all the symbolism and complicated relationships we've uncovered so far in A Curse for the Homesick.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I think it's in this last part of the book that things really come to a head for Tess.
Oh, for sure.
Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Like all the emotional undercurrents, all the unspoken tensions, they finally erupt to the surface.
Yeah.
And the way the author weaves those personal struggles with the ever-present danger of the Skeld curse, it's masterful.
Yes. Remember that scene in the Ramna scale when they discovered Delia's boyfriend has turned to stone? I mean, talk about a heart-stopping moment.
Oh.
You're not just worried about the character's emotional well-being at that point.
Right.
You're genuinely fearing for their lives.
What's so effective about that scene is how it forces Tess to confront her own mortality.
Right.
You know, it's not just an abstract fear of the curse anymore. It's a visceral, immediate threat. And you feel that tension right alongside her.
Totally.
Yeah.
You can practically feel her pulse racing as she checks for the mark, wondering if she's next.
Yes.
And amidst all that chaos, you see these flashes of humanity that really shine through.
Absolutely.
Like Soren staying by her side, even though he's risking his own safety.
Yeah.
It's a subtle but powerful reminder that love can persist even in the face of terror.
And that act of courage, it speaks volumes about Soren's character.
It really does.
He's not just stoic and duty-bound. He's capable of deep empathy and selflessness.
Right.
He chooses to stay with Tess, not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to comfort her.
And it's moments like that that make their relationship so compelling.
Totally.
You see these glimmers of hope and tenderness amidst all the pain and uncertainty.
Absolutely.
Speaking of complicated relationships,
Yeah.
we have to talk about Tess and her mother.
Oh, yes.
Their dynamic is just so fraught with unresolved issues stemming from that tragic accident.
It's a relationship that's burdened by guilt, resentment, and this unspoken longing for connection.
Right.
You can feel Tess's struggle to forgive her mother, to understand how a single choice can have such devastating ripple effects.
And it's not a simple black and white situation.
No.
You know, the author doesn't portray Tess's mother as a villain,
Right.
but as a flawed human being who made a terrible mistake. It adds this layer of moral ambiguity to the story, forcing you to grapple with the complexities of forgiveness and the idea that good people can do bad things.
And that it mirrors the larger themes of the book, right? The Skeld curse itself isn't just a straightforward evil.
Right.
It's a force that's both destructive and transformative, shaping the island and its people in profound ways.
Right. Makes you think about how even the most difficult experiences can shape who we become and how our choices, both big and small, have lasting consequences.
Absolutely.
And as Tess journeys toward forgiveness, you see her wrestling with those consequences.
Yeah.
Not just in relation to her mother, but in relation to her own choices and desires. She has to decide whether to stay on Stenland with Soren, embracing the life that's familiar but perhaps limiting, or to leave and pursue her dreams, risking heartbreak and the unknown.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That's the ultimate tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
The pull of home versus the allure of something more.
Yeah.
And the choice she makes, without giving anything away,
Okay.
reflects how much she's grown throughout the story.
Right.
She's no longer the same girl who fled the island years ago.
Right.
She's come to a deeper understanding of herself, her past, and what truly matters to her.
And that journey of self-discovery is what makes A Curse for the Homesick so resonant.
You know, it's not just a paranormal romance or a coming-of-age story.
Right.
It's a reflection on the universal human experience of grappling with our past, our fears, and our deepest desires.
It's a book that stays with you long after you finish the last page, prompting you to ask yourself, what are the Skeld curses in my own life? What are the things holding me back? And what choices can I make to break free and embrace a future that is both authentic and fulfilling?
Those are powerful questions to consider.
Yeah.
And I think that's the ultimate gift of this book. It challenges us to confront those questions, to dig deep into our own emotional landscapes and discover the strength and resilience that we might not even know we possess. So
we've reached the end of our deep dive into A Curse for the Homesick.
Wow.
What an incredible journey. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
What resonated with you the most?
What are your own Ramna scale moments? Share your insights, your favorite quotes, anything that sparked your imagination in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow bookworms. Until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and keep those deep dives going.